Vaheguru, 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 Vaheguru. So all throughout today, while I'm here, as we go along, we're going to do a bit more Simran. Now I want you to concentrate on that Simran as we do it. So the first thing I'm going to talk about here, so there's 10 points on my slide. The first point is about Amrit Vela. Does everyone know what Amrit Vela is? What time is Amrit Vela roughly? Anji? Anji?
At dawn.
At dawn. Anyone else?
4 o'clock.
Anji?
4 baje.
4 baje. So Amrit Vela is the last Peher before sunrise. That means there's 8 Peher in the day and night. They're 3 hours each. So the last Peher is Amrit Vela. So the 3 hours before sunrise is, that's Amrit Vela. That's when Gursikh wakes up and does his Simran. Now if a Gursikh isn't waking up at that time, Guruji says, if we call ourselves a Gursikh, if you say you're a Gursikh, who says they're Gursikh? Put your hand up if you're a Gursikh. No, all of you supposed to put your hands up. We're all Gursikhs. So Gur Satgur ka jo Sikh khaye, so pal ke uth har naam te aave. So the first thing you do, you wake up and you do Simran. And Guruji tells you about 4 or 5 things in that shabd. He says when you wake up you do Simran. Udam kare pal ke prabhati, ishnan kare amrit sarnave. When you're doing your ishnan, when you're having your ishnan in the morning, so you start Simran before your ishnan. You don't do, I wake up, I do my ishnan, I sit down, then I start my Simran. That's not what you do. You wake up, you start Simran. You do your ishnan, you do Simran. Updesh Guru har har jab jape, sab kilvik paap dokh le jave. Then Guruji says, then you sit down and do Simran. So that's the 3rd time you're doing Simran. First is when you wake up, second when you're doing ishnan, 3rd is when you're sitting down. Then Guruji says, when the day sun rises, that's when you do your nitnem, when the sun's rising. So when you wake up, if you wake up and you look outside, and the sun's risen, then you're too late. So the first thing Gursikhs should do is wake up, and it should be dark outside when you're waking up. That's the easy way to understand. No? And when you're doing it, then Guruji says, Fir chade divas gurbani gaave, bendya uthdya har naam te aave. So as you're doing your day-to-day things, you're supposed to be doing Simran then as well. So that might be when you're having your lunch, it might be when you're having your break, and this might sound funny, even when you're going to the toilet, even when you're doing all the things you do in your daytime, Guruji is saying you're supposed to be trying to do Simran all the time, as much as you can. Even now we try to do Simran. Even as we're sitting, you should be trying to do Simran. So everyone, Vaheguru, 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 Vaheguru. So Sikhi starts like that. Guruji says anyone who does that, and when they're breathing, they remember Vaheguru as well when they're breathing. Why do you think Guruji says when you're breathing that you should do Vaheguru? Why did Guruji say that? Does anyone know? Some of the older people. Why Guruji says when you're jo saas giras te aaye mera har har so Gursikh Guru man paave. That means Guruji gets very cautious if you're doing Simran with your breathing. Why? Why does Guruji say that? Anyone have a go? Hanji.
Because you're always breathing like that, he wants you to do Simran all the time.
Yeah, so because you have to breathe all the time. Do you breathe when you're sleeping? So you're breathing when you're sleeping, you're breathing when you're waking up. Guruji says if you're the one who's while they're breathing, they're doing Simran. The second thing is Guruji calls Vaheguru, as a Gursikh, we call Vaheguru Pran Adar. Does anyone know why we call Guruji Pran Adar? Why do we call him that? Anyone know what Pran is? Pran, what's your Pran? So when you hear Shabd, someone does Shabd, Tu mere Pran Adar hai. Prabhuji, Tu mere Pran Adar. What does Pran mean? Does anyone know? Hanji? Swas, your Pran means the life Guruji is giving you. The life Guruji is giving you, that's your Pran. Guruji says, I've loaned that from you. I've borrowed it. So like we're breathing now, we're breathing and we've got life. Guruji said, I borrowed that of Vaheguru, that's not mine. And he says, he's lent me that. So Guruji says, if you say, okay, the breathing now, so when I breathe, that's Vaheguru's, it's not really my breath. And that's why we call Adami. Adami means, if your dami is breath, if your breath comes, then you're a person, you're a human being. If your breath stops, then you're not a human being anymore. That's why we call Adami. Dami aajave. Dami aandiya and we're human. Dami na aave, breath doesn't come, then we're not. So Guruji is very khush with you if you're breathing while you do Simran. The second thing I want to go, so Amrit Villa, it all starts here. Gursikh Sikhi starts there for everybody. Now 5 evils. This is a part, this might be a little bit difficult for younger children to understand. I hope that parents or everyone else can make them understand this, because as children reach the age of 11, 12, then these things start getting a bit more uncontrolled. The 5 doods, Guruji says, Kaam, Krodh, Kaya, Ko, Gale, Jo, Kanchan, Suhaga, Tale. Does anyone know what that means? Kaam, Krodh, Kaya, Ko, Gale. Guess? Guruji saying the Kaam and Krodh is not just talking about 2, that's lust, anger. Anyone know what 5 doods are? Lust, anger?
Anger.
Yeah.
Ego.
Ego? Yeah. Greed. And what's the fourth one? Well, the 5th, but the 4th. Attachment. Guruji says those things, they damage your body. Why do you think? So, that's why I've drawn a hand here. Kaam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Hankar, we think they're in the man. They're not. Guruji says, it's dehi andar. Panch chor vase. Kaam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Hankara. And what they do, they come into your bloodstream. So when you think about those evils, 5 evils, what they do, they attack your body. They come into your body. Guruji says when they've come into your body, then your body slowly starts withering away quicker. You start losing your life quicker, Guruji says. So that's why in Sikhi, the 5 dood are really, really damaging for Gursikh. And a Gursikh has to overcome 5 evils. Those 5 evils are actually 5 dood are in the animal kingdom. And what they are, they're a survival mechanism for that species. That species survives by them. So lust, a species needs lust to procreate. Species needs anger in case it gets into danger. It gets into danger in its territories, then anger comes out of fear. Anger comes. It needs greed because it needs to collect as much as it can for its survival. It needs attachment because if it doesn't look after its own children, nothing else looks after them. And its children die. So it needs attachment. And it needs a hankar, it needs an ego to protect itself, to make itself bigger than what it is. The human being used those 5 things incorrectly. We start thinking we're those 5 things and we're not. That's why Guruji says, Man tu jot swaroop hai apna mool pashan. Because you are actually a jot, you're not that body. And if you read Gurbani carefully, Gurbani tells you over and over again, when we start attaching, and the 2, when I talked about Pran, I talked for a reason, the Pran, the breath of life, that's the thing that attaches the soul to your body. They're the connection. When Guruji says your Pran finishes, the soul disconnects with the body and it goes. And then the body stays here. So when your soul's gone, it goes to the next world, that's where you get judged. And it says, what does the soul want? What did it do? Did it think it was the body? Or did it think it was Vaheguru? So when we do Simran, and we're going to do it again, everyone back into Simran. Vaheguru, 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 Vaheguru. So when we're doing Simran, that takes us away from the body, and it takes us into the Jyot again. That's what we are, we're the light inside. We're not the body, and as long as we keep thinking we're the body, that's when we lose our Sikhi. We lose all of the things, we lose everything. Because we're attached to the false thing rather than the true thing. So these 5 things, oops. So those 5 things, they're in your body, and you need to understand how to disconnect from them. And when there's a hukamnama, Guruji says, "Aso gun mero prabji keen, panch dok ar ahang rog is tanate sagal dur keen." Now when Guruji wants to, and when we read Anand Sahib, panch dood to the vas kite, kal kantak marya, what Guruji gives you, when you do lots of Simran, what Guruji gives you is the ability to control some of the things that are going on inside. And that's what we've slowly got to be able to do. Now, I want to jump a bit now. I'm going to come to this one, because we've talked about this. Now, when we do Simran, one of the things that, when Gurbani talks about Simran, we just think of Simran like this. We go, Waheguru, Waheguru, Waheguru. Now we just think that's Simran on its own. Gurbani talks beyond that. That is Simran. That is one way of doing Aradhana, one way of doing Bhakti. But Guruji talks beyond that. When we say Chit Manre Ram Kaho Chitalai, what does Chitalai mean? Does anyone know? Ram Kaho Chitalai. What does that mean? Hanji. Mandala ke. What does Mandala ke mean? Ekagar. Now, what Guruji said to you, you've got a man, but you also got a chit. And Guruji distinguishes from those 2 things. And one of the best shabads that describe a chit is that, like, you're sitting here now. While you're sitting here, is anyone daydreaming? Is anyone daydreaming? What are you daydreaming about? Are you daydreaming about watching television or meeting your friend? That means you're sitting here, but your chit has gone. You're sitting here, but your chit has gone. Your man's still here somewhere, your man's thinking about something, but your chit has gone. They're separate. And that's why Guruji says, Jidi naam te aaya, ek man, ek chit. They're 2 separate things. Now the best shabd, one of the best shabds to describe this, I haven't got it in English because it would have made the very small. I'm going to teach you a little bit about shabds as well, make sure everybody understands. Bani Naam Deo Jio Ki Ram Kali Kar Pehla. What does Ram Kali mean in that? Ram Kali is Raag, hai na? And what's Naam Deo? Hanji, Naam Deo. What does Naam Deo mean? Hanji, it's Bhagat Naam Dev Ji. This shabd is by Bhagat Naam Dev Ji. Now Bhagat Ji does a very good description, and children, you should understand this now. You should all understand this. Everybody should understand what their chit is after this. Anile kagad katile gudi akash made parmiyale panch janasyo baat batawa cheet so dori rakhiyale. Can anyone tell me what those lines mean? Namdev Ji is saying, a child, he sits there. Has anyone flown a kite? You children, who flies a kite? Have you flown a kite? Bhagat Namdev is saying, you know, when that child flies a kite and the kite's in the air, he said the child is still, he's got his mind in the kite string. So anyone who's flown a kite, you'll know, when the wind blows, the kite goes further and you have to let more string go. You know, when the wind stops a bit, the kite starts falling down and if you tighten the string. Bhagat Namdev Ji is saying a child sits there, he still talks to his friends like this, he's still talking like this, but his hands are doing this still. His hands are tightening the string and letting it go. He said his chit is still in the kite. He can talk to you, his chit is still in the kite. Man Ram Nama Bedhiyale, Jaise Kanak Kala Chit Mandiyale. Bhagat Ji says, do your chit, put your man and your chit into Waheguru like a goldsmith. When you go to a goldsmith shop, the goldsmith carries on making his jewellery like this. But he says, yeah, can I help you? He says, can I help you? He's talking to you like this, but he carries on, he can make his jewellery still. And he's making his jewellery like that, and you're saying to him, how much does that thing cost over there? And he knows what you're talking about. And he says, oh, that's £400. His jit is still in his gum, but he can talk to you. Yeah, do you understand it so far? जैसे कनक कलचित मांडीले आनीले कुंभ पराइले उदक राजकुमार परंदरिये हस्त विरोध विचार करती है चीत सो गागर राखीले. There's, when you go to India, have you seen the women put something on their head and they're walking without touching it like that, and they keep walking, but it doesn't fall off the head. It doesn't fall. But they keep talking to each other. They're talking to each other, walking, and they even turn their heads like this and they don't fall. Bhagavad Namdev is saying they've got their man, they've got their chit in the thing, in that pot on their head, but they're still talking. So when we say a person can't do two things at once, a person can. You can do two things at once. And मंदिर एक द्वार 10 जाके गौ चरावन छाड़ियले 5 कोस पर गौ चरावत चीत सो बछड़ा राखियले. If you read in science, a cow, you know, when a cow's bacha, small calf, they put the cow away from it. The cow gets depressed. The cow gets very upset. So they put the cow 10 fields away, but the cow is really upset. It keeps thinking about its child. He keeps thinking about his calf. So, Bhagavad Namdev ji, what's he saying? Kahat Namdev suno talochan balak palan pondiyale antar bahar kaj barudi cheet so bark rakhiyale. He said the best example, one of the best examples. Everyone, bacha here, everyone's got a mum, and your mum looks after you, but she does all the gum in the house. She does all the work, but she's still listening. Is he crying? Is he crying? Is he crying? Is he crying? Is she crying? Is the baby crying? They just keep doing that all day. They're doing all their work, but they keep caring, where's the baby gone? Where is it, baby? They keep worrying about it. Namdev Ji's taught you what chit is now. He said, if you're doing your work, we're doing our gum, we're walking around, we're doing all of this, we're talking even. He says, our chit should not be away. Your chit should not be away. Now you know what your chit is. Your chit is like, while we're sitting here, if our chit could be in anything, but that chit is a bad chit if it doesn't go into Vaheguru. That's why it's very difficult in our day-to-day jobs. Bhai Sab was talking about it when Rajo, Tamo, Sato Gun, these Gun, that when we get caught up in all of these things in our day-to-day life, our chit goes funny. Our chit is gone. So Bhagavad Devji and Namdevji, in Bani, it tells you a lot about your chit. And so that's a very important part. I'm going to go back to number 3. And this one's important. Now, if you talk to yourself, if you ever talk to yourself, a person thinks you're mental, huh? People think you're a bit crazy. You're a bit loopy. What are you talking to yourself for? Gurbani, how much Gurbani tells you to Naam Japana, tells you to talk to yourself. Now if you read this shabd, Bhai re, is man ko samajh aaye, e man alas kya kare, Gurmukh naam te aaye. Now, in Gurbani, when you read Anand Sahib, I love Anand Sahib, jo Bani hai, e man mereya, tu sada raho har nale. Now Guruji is telling you, talk to your mind. Because e man mereya. So you can read that Bani like this, you go, e man mereya, sada raho nale, naro tu man mereya, sab sarna, hai na? But if you read it the way Guruji's wrote it, Guruji is saying, e man mereya, tu sada raho har nale. And if you look at these shabds, how Guruji does it, Guruji says, talk to your mind. What we think the mind is something different. It's not, you have to talk to it. And if you, e man mat jane har dur hai, sada vek hadur. Guruji says, mind, oi, mind, wake up. You stop thinking God's far away. He's right next to you. Stop thinking he's far away. He's telling his mind. Kaho nanak sun re mana simrat kahe na ram. Now when you read Slok Mela Nama, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji talks about man so much in that Bani. If you listen to Slok Mela Nama, Guruji talks about man so much. in there Gaho Nanak sun re mana Simrat kahe na ram. So Guruji saying, silly mind, listen, listen. He said, why are you doing Simran? So Vaheguru, 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 Vaheguru. So don't lose your concentration here. E man mereya tu sada raho har nale. That's Guru Amar Das Ji saying to you every day, to stay with Vaheguru as long as you can. Oh mind, you're mad. What are you doing? He goes off doing silly things. E man mereya. Sorry, that font is very funny. Chad avgan guni samane aram. He's saying to your mind, stop your evilness. You know the pap that we do with our mind. Just because you're not doing it with your body, you know, like we say, oh, I'm a good person, I've done Amrit, I've got the star, I've got Panchakakar, I'm really good. But what's your mind doing? And Guruji is saying, E man mereya, chad avgan. Because avgan that your mind's doing, tell it to stop. It's doing evil things in here, है E man mereya, har sevo purkh nirala ram. Do seva of Vaheguru. Now, one of the things, the Naujwans here a lot. This is your Gurdwara, है We've become a little bit lazy, Coventry, because we do it for many years and then you stop and we become lazy and we got caught up in other projects. Ejiri seva ya hath. It's not just about mandi seva. Vin seva, trig, hath pair, or nefal karni. Here, every Gursikh here should be coming to Gurdwara do seva. Thodi seva honi chahiye every week. Should all be doing something. And if you're not doing seva, oh mandi seva, and I'm going to tell you sakhi about Guruji, because it's not just about man, it's about hath as well. Now Guruji, he asked a Gursikh, he was like the Gursikhs here, young, maybe about, well, he was a bit older, he's about 20, Guruji says, I want jal. And that Gursikh, he bought in some jal. Now Guruji took the jal off his hat and he touched his hat. Guruji touched his hat here like that. And he said, your hat, they're very smooth. What? He goes, what work do you do? Tusi kaam kera karde hain, what work do you do? And the Gursikh said, I don't do work. And he said, I don't understand why you don't do work. Guru Nanak Dev Ji is the bachan to all Gursikh. Naam japna, vand ke shakna, kirt karni. Kirt karni pani Gursikh no. You have to do work. And he touched, and his heart was so smooth, and he said, my work is to serve you, Guruji. Because my work, my kirt is to serve you. Guruji took his water and spilt it. He said, I don't want your water. Because I don't want it. Because I want Jirab Gursikhs to kirt, the one who does work. So that's just kirt. But then you've got to do seva after you've done that kirt. And that's what Vand ke Shakna means. And Bhai Gurdas Ji says, Pai Pichal Rati Jagana, Naam Daan Shanaan Didaye. Pehla Pichal Rati Jagana, when we talk about Amartila, he says, first thing Gursikh does, Pichal Raat nu ut karna. And you're going to do Naam Simran there. Mitha bolan, niv chalan. Pehla fir mitha bolna tusi. We're going to talk mitha, we ain't going to have rough boli to Gursikhs, that's maadi gal. Niv chalan, apne aap nu neema samajhna. You're going to go with humility. Hathon de ke phala manaye. Now this is the gal Bhai Gurdas says. Hathon de ke, when you got a chance to do seva, tusi apna phala manauna tusi. Horna da phala karna tusi. That's our seva, that's what Gursikh is. And if we have a Gursikh who doesn't even come Gurdwara to do seva, to madi gal hai na. Who doesn't even want to do seva here. This is the practice ground. Guru says it's a chatsal, it's a school. We learn here. But you have to apply that outside of there then, what you learn here first. So so we have to do, number one, mind has to be, and what are the three things Guruji says you have to give? There's man, what's the second one? So I say tan, huh? Man, tan, and what's the third thing? Tan. So you have to give your mind, you have to give your body, and you have to give your wealth as well, money. There are three things you have to give. You can't just give one. So even if a person is good at that, say man deta, and they don't do seva, Guruji didn't accept it. He might have even given his man. And that's the hardest thing to do, is give your man. But he said because he didn't give his tan, he didn't give his body to seva, he said to do kirt karni and do honest living, he said, I don't want your water. Guruji says, I didn't want your water. How much time have I got, buddy? Half an hour. Taking things for granted in your life, na? Jai prasad shati amrit khahe, this Thakur ko rakman mahe. So when we read Sukhamni Sahib, there's a whole Ashtapadi. Kam, Krodh, or Lobh, Moh, Binat Jai Aham Mev, Nanak Prabh Sharanagati, Kar Prasad Gurudev. Guruji is saying, Thwadite Gurus gave you everything. Jai Prasad Shakti Amrit Khai, this Thakur Gora Kamanamai. He said he gave you food, he gave you a body, he gave you family, he gave you garden, he gave you flowers, he gave you beautiful things to see, he gave you bed to sleep on, he gave you friends that you laugh with. Sari Jija, but Guru wants something back. Guru says you got all these things, he wanted something back. Like Jaya Prasad Shakti Hamrat Khahe, this Thakur Gora Kamanamai said, keep Vaheguru in your mind. If he's giving you ये शक्ति अमृत खान दा हम देता, गुरु साहब कह रहे हैं कि तुसी मान विच रखो फिर वाहिगुरु नू जे प्रसाद आरोग कंचन देही. If you're there now, you haven't got any disease, if you haven't got any pain in your body now, if your body you can do anything with it. Guru said je prasad arog kanchan dehi, live lavo, this is Ram Sanehi. He says put your mind just for 1 second into Vaheguru for now. Vaheguru, 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 Vaheguru. So when we say appreciate what you have before it turns into what you had, if you've got something now, today, and we see this lots of times. For instance, Naujawan, one of the, your parents, bahut disrespect karde to their parents. That's one example. Very, very disrespectful to their parents. When their parents go old and they pass away, then they start crying. Then they say, oh my gosh, I didn't do any seva of my parents. I'm really bad. I can't do it now. So when Guruji gives you opportunity to do something, we disrespect it, we don't appreciate it. And even our bodies now, slowly, like my body's getting old now, Bella is okay, you can do various things, slowly starts hurting. Slowly when you're sitting now, it's harder to sit longer. It's harder to do all those things. While you've got it, you didn't appreciate it. So while it was young, boys running after girls, girls running after boys, you got television, you got all these stupid, silly things that we're doing, while the body was really, really healthy. Then when body goes, and if you look at the ages, sometimes we ask, when am I going to be old? What age is it when I'm old? And Gurbani tells you. Gurbani tells you. If you listen to Bhagat Kabir ji, he says, 12 bars, bal pan beete. While up until the age of 12, who here is 12 and under? Who's under 12? Under 12 years old? Who's between 12 and 16? Right. These aren't bache anymore. Under 12s and under, they're bache. Bare bars balpan beete 20 baras ke tap na kiyo. Bhagat Kabir ji says from 0 to 12 is a baby, is a bacha, you can say bacha. From 12 to 32 is a Juwan. That's the first part of your Juwani. Your youth, 12 to 32. These Barasakesha Devana Puja, from 32 to 62, that's the second half of your Juwani. That's where your wisdom years are supposed to be. That's where we're doing more Puttikam after 32. 32 to 62, that's your second part of your Juwani. These Barasakesha Devana Puja, Fir Pachatana, Bird Payo. Kabirji, after 62, you're Buddha. We're Buddha then. And then you know what? In Sir Kampyo Pag Dagamaga, Nan Jot te Heen, Kaho Nanak, a bid pay tona har raslin. So Guru Tegh Bahadur ji says, when your eyes stop working and your sir start shaking, Pag Dagamaga, you can't walk in a straight line. He goes, then har ras, you're going to talk about har ras then. But while we're young at this age, you got a chance to really enjoy your bhakti, to really enjoy your life with Guruji. But we waste it. We say, oh, it's all right, I'll do it next year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. But it's wasting and the time's going and no one knows. And I spoke to my nephew, he was 19. I spoke to him just last June. And he's talking to me about Sikhi. He was on Gursikh in terms of Amrit Shakya. And he said, how do you wake up early? How do you do this? What Simran? How do you do Simran? What part do you do? I was speaking to him. 3 months later, I get a phone call, he's died. He's 19. So he's doing karma like we do. We're standing like this and it's collapsed. And it's so up until, so they did a whole, they've done all of the checking, done all the, the post-mortem, all that, inconclusive. So, Amai Vadda, why Guru Vadda? We can't say, I'm going to be 72, I'm going to live till 72, you can't say that. We don't know, the dark is going like this. And it's like, Kabirji describes it like a pot with water in it and then the drops coming out. 1 drop, 2 drops, 3. Eventually all the drops are going to come out. And that's what a breathing is. 1 drop's gone. Next drop's gone. Eventually the drops are going to finish. Vaheguru, Vaheguru, Vaheguru. So loving and hating things and how to do it. Sukh dukh je parsai nahi. Lob moh avman kaho nanak sun re mana so murat bhagwan. If you can accept dukh and sukh as the same. Now, one of the things we used to describe here is a good thing to do is when you're doing something, you're really enjoying it, stop halfway and don't go back to do it. Stop halfway and don't do it. And just walk away from it. For instance, if you're watching something and you think, oh, this is very interesting now, wonder what's going to happen next, can you walk away? And just say, I'm not interested in what happens next. If you can do that, your mind goes stronger. The second thing is, if there's something you hate doing it, for 5 minutes, just do it with full concentration. So for Nyane, when mom says, Hoover kar do, make your bed, do this other thing, can you do it with full concentration? Then even if you don't like doing it, can you do that? Because if you can train your mind to do that, one day, your mind's going to say, I don't want to do Simran now. I don't want to wake up yet. You know, I don't want to go Gurdwara today. When it does that and you can say, no, doesn't matter what you're saying, I'm doing it, your mind gets strong. And one of the things we don't do making our mind stronger. We don't do much of that. We just leave it. It's not teak, huh? It's not teak, it's lost, it's loopy. And sometimes this is, especially in things, if you become good at something, even in Gurdwara, it's a bad thing I have to say. If you become good at something, someone's always going to be there, or something like that. Or you did this seva, and that's, Guruji says, that's the same as swearing at a person. To say to a person that you're great, you're awesome, I've even heard that. Some people said, oh, that person, well, come on, I mean. So we go to a certain level where it starts getting silly, you know? So to praise somebody too much is the same as slandering somebody, you know? So I'm going to go with this one, but true praise comes often even to the lowly, false praise only comes to the strong. You know? So when we become nime, because the true praise, when Guruji says, even Guruji loves his Gursikhs, loads, bored, a lot, you know? But he doesn't love the ones, mere varge stand at the front, whose names you know. It's not them. The ones who are in prominent, that's not the ones. Guruji loves ones, you don't know their names. They're the ones who just get on with things. They're not there to say, I'm the best. Name me, put my name there. It's all the ones who are lower. That's what you've got, an attitude we've got to have. Our attitude shouldn't be that I want to do Sikhi so that I'm praised by everybody sitting here. That's like winning something amazing and then just beizati for about 2 minutes, for about 2 pence. That's the same as that. What you want is to Guruji one day to say, Jappi palve Guru Sahib thonu. Imagine we go from here, when we go from here, we go to the next world. When we read Asa ki war be Gur Sikha man vadaiyan, jini mera Sadguru Tithara Raje, koi ghar gal sunave har naam ki so lage Gur Sikha man mitha, har dargah Gur Sikh pain ai hai, jina mera Sadguru tutha. Jan Nanak har har hoya har har man utha. Guru is saying the Gursikh who Guru loves, when you go to the next one, you need to get sropa here. You get sropa, you say seva kiti, you get sropa. The sropa Guruji gives you is a jappi. It's a jappi wala sropa. And that jappi, you become jivan mukti, your soul just merges. That's the jappi that you want. You don't want jappi. We don't want just someone to say, oh balle well done. Tu to tere varga kitni hai nahi koi. Tere varga aani hai, sevadar nahi hai koi. What you want that for? You want Guru to say, when that Gursikh, that meri kirpa is Gursikh teya. That's what vadiyai you want. Guru di vadiyai. But then what a Gursikh says is, je de vadiyai ta teri vadiyai. If you give me vadiyai, it's yours. And that's what when we say Vaheguru Ji ka, Vaheguru Ji ki, what does that mean? That the Khalsa is, and the Fateh, in other words, if you achieve something, whose is it? That's what that means. It's homemade destroyer, Fateh is. Fateh is to destroy homemade. Now, this one, I'm going to quickly skip over this. Nanak Bhagta Sada Vigas, Sone Dukh Pap Ganas. Every day, see, Padde Hame, Gursikh, Walk, Sada Vigas Vich hai. They're always happy. They're always Anand Vich. But Jib Gursikh, I've asked Gursikhs, like you Gursikhs, this age, 20, 25 even, I said, in the last 6 months, can you tell me about a good experience? What's made you really happy? And they sit there like this, they go, oh, I don't know, I can't think of anything. I don't know. I haven't really got any happy experiences. If you, that's why we say you go to do seva, you don't go to do seva like some board. A good board? So, I've come here to do my board, is it? It's like some saja I got that you'll have to do some seva today, or damn. And the happy, you're supposed to look back on your life and you're supposed to have lots of happiness. Lots of happiness. And even if something's dukh, let's say worldly wise, thode family vich, thode rishtedar vich, thode rishteyan vich, or even in your sanjog, as dukh comes. Tusi dukh nahi manana no. You're not going to accept that as dukh. You got to have a happy experience that when you were with Guruji, you sat with Guruji, you did Kirtan. And when we do Kirtan, if Kirtan is we just walk out of Kirtan and we just say, well, Jidana mein gaya si udan bara, then we ain't in Kirtan really. And this is more for Kirtanis as well. Je tusi Kirtan kar rahe and you walk out the Kirtan is same, you just feel the same. Well, what does that mean? So you've got to have happy experiences with Guruji. I'm not talking about happy experiences, oh well let's go Alton Towers or something. Even if you do that, if you do go to Alton Towers, the happiness should be that your hirda is really kush. Inside you're very happy. Now what I wanted to cover today was a lot about man, but I was told that different people at different levels, so I've got pretty complicated stuff to say, but I don't want to say, confuse anybody, you know. But make your ardas meaningful and special. Eh ardas hamari swami visar nahi sukh date. ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਅਰਦਾਸ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, when we talk about Amrit Vela and waking up early, sometimes we can't do it. Sometimes in our life something comes down. It happens to everybody. Sometimes it goes down and you go off schedule. You know? I haven't met any Gursikh who wakes up at Amrit Vela who doesn't ask for it in the Ardas. Person who doesn't ask for it. So when you read Ardas, you read it from the Gurkha, don't you? You read the Gurkha, and the Gurkha says, आप जी दे हजूर है साहब दे पाठ दी अरदास है जी अखरवादा घाटा पूछ माफ कर ली the basic अरदास उथे वो opportunity तुसी waste नहीं करनी. When you're doing ardas at that point, Guruji is listening. Why Guru is listening? And if you just say जो आप जी दे हजूर रहरा साहब दे पाठ दी अरदास है जी अखरवादा घाटा उथे इदां नहीं कहना तुसी. You're going to say that, but this is ardas for this part that I've just done. But उत्थे तुसी वो चीज़ तुसी मांग लेनी है. पे मांगना मांगने का हर जस गुरते मांगना. Utte tusi gonna, what you gonna ask for? If Guruji is standing in front of you today, what you gonna ask for? Go on, tell, someone give me an amazing answer. Go on. Hanji. Saare di sukh shanti de tandurusti. Hanji. Anyone else? Hanji. Naam di daat. And I've been to Gurdwara lots, and Sundays I've gone virtually a lot of Sundays. And jithe akhand path hunda and they do ardas. Is koi wrong nahi hai? I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm saying you to say akhand path. You don't akhand path. Addi vadi cheez. You don't akhand path. And you know and there is still shukrana changi cheez hai. Main nahi keh raha. They say, oh, they just say a bachche nu job mil jave. Or they say something really, really small, Whereas Guruji says, "Ven tud hor je mangana." What is it? Sir dukha ke dukh deh naam santokhiya utre man ki bhukh gurwan tin harya kitya nanak kya manukh. Now Guruji is telling you something in the last pankti of that. He says Guruji makes all the world green. So jityo, he makes the winter into spring. He makes the brown thing into a green thing. He puts life into Mario cheez, and we stand there and we ask him, Guruji, make sure I don't lose my job next week. That's what we ask for. We say, please Guruji, I've got a bit of back pain, make it go away. What Guruji is saying to you, ask for the cheez, jehdi asthir rahe. Asthir. That means it never ever goes away. It never dies, it never finishes. Ask for that cheez. Eho tan akhot nane khote na jaye. Ask for that cheez, jehdi cheez muk it will never finish. Khave kharche ral mil bhai tod na aave vad do jaye. Ask for that thing that keeps growing, keeps growing. You're asking for the thing that keeps dying. Why are we asking for the thing that keeps dying? So why would I ask for, might be a hard thing for the younger children, why would I ask for 20 more years to live? Would you ask for that, 20 more years? You say, Guru Sahib, in 20 seconds, they don't take me to yourself. Take me to Waheguru now. I don't want 20 years. 20 seconds. 20 milliseconds. Ek bhori darshan dije. Kabir ji says, what Kabir Ji's ardas is, would you do this ardas? If Waheguru, you had an opening to Waheguru and he asked you, what do you want? Would you ever say to Waheguru, give me your darshan for 1 second, then send me to the Jamduts? Because if you want to send me to the Jamdut, then I'm happy to go. Because you show me yourself for 1 second, split second, show me what you look like, and I'm happy to go to any hell that you want to send me to. Would you say that? Because he loves Waheguru that much. And that's what we got to do in our ardas, Now we've done that one. Maya, these cheejan, all these things that we spoke about there, when we talk about Maya, do you understand what Maya is? Can anyone describe what Maya is very easily, simply? What's Maya? What's Maya? Hanji. Huh? So Guruji keeps you away from it, Guru Sahib us cheez to dur rakhda. What cheez ki hai, what is it keeping you away from? What is it? Hanji? So Maya te us cheez te stamp kida lagda. How do you say Maya hai? Ye cheez Maya hai. Hanji? Attachment. Hanji? Attachment's one thing. When you read Anand Sahib, Guruji says, when Guruji says, "Jaisi agan udar main taisi bahar maya." Jidda when we were in the womb, when you were in the womb, what happened is it's very hot in there, and after a bit the baby gets very distressed by that. Guruji says, like that distress that's happening in there, it bar maya same cheeza. But Guruji in that body of Anand Sahib tells you very clearly, Maya, how do you know? E Maya, jit har visra, mo upja, pao duja laya. Guru says there are 3 things you do to test it, to see if something's Maya. Number 1, have you forgot Waheguru? First thing, by doing that thing, whether it's you listening to it, seeing it, talking to it, sitting by it, jit har visra, have you forgot God? Mo upja, you said attachment. Us cheez ਨਾਲ attachment ho gayi ya? Have you got attached to it? In other words, do you think that's really good? That's worth more to you than God's bhagti is, Vaheguru's bhagti. Mo upja pao duja laya. And you makes you fall in love with it. And love doesn't mean that is you start sending it cards and you love it. Love just means that takes priority for you than something else. That's love. So Guruji says there's 3 things that you test it with, Maya. Number 1, has it made you forget God? So Benji at the back said, children, do children make you forget God? Do children make you forget God? Anji? Want to bet? so children only make you forget God if you think of them as yours. Then they make you forget God. If you think of your children as Waheguru Di Daat, they're Waheguru Di Daat, and you have just you've been given a seva to raise them, then they're not Maya. They're only Maya when your man becomes distracted from Waheguru, na? So is money Maya? Money. Is paise Maya? Paise is Maya. 100%? A to Z? All the time Maya. Money is Maya, all the time. When is money not Maya? Anji?
You're using it for seva.
Yeah, if you use money for seva, then it can't be Maya. Huh? But the cheez Guru Sahib tells you, Tinka khada, paida, Maya, sab pavitra hai. Jo naam har rate. If you're doing bhakti and then you spent some money on something and then that's not Maya. But it doesn't mean if you spend it and you buy the house and you just stand outside, keep looking at your house, go, you know, my house is better than your house and his house. Then it's become Maya. And your children are the same. Look what we do with our children. We're raising our children and we say, it doesn't matter about that one. Doesn't matter about my neighbor, doesn't matter about then you made it into Maya. Because you've attached your home to it. So these all these things were there, Guruji put you in Bani for you to say, Maya, stop, get away from Maya by doing these things. Amrit Vile, Gurbani the Naam. Guru says, stop your Maya by your evils when they're destroying your body. Have you recognized that they've destroyed your body? Guruji is saying to you, learn to talk to yourself. Say, eh man meria, man mere, eh man meria. You read Bani, when you read Bani now, please listen to it more carefully. Guru said, eh man re, eh man meria. And the thing I didn't show you in the Shabd was where Rahau comes. Jithe Rahau anda, the Rahau of a Shabd, or center point hunda of Shabda. That means Guruji is telling you, this is what I'm really saying, and I'm going to expand it with what's around the Shabd. When you have a Rahau, that's the center point of the Shabd. So that's what the message Guru is telling you is in the Rahau, and he's expanding it all around with the rest of the Shabd, so you understand the Rahau even better at the end of it. So when Guru is talking, if the reason why I said that was, a lot of the Shabds where Guru says Manre, it comes in the Rahau. It comes in the center point where Guru said, E man, Re man, Man re, Murkh man. That all comes in the center point of the Shabd. You know? Taking things for granted in your life, don't do that. You know? These things aren't ours. These cheez are going to go. If we're saying, if you look at yourself now, your house isn't going to be yours. Your dehi is not going to be yours, body. Your children aren't going to be yours. Your money is not going to be yours. Your friends are not going to be yours. फिर रह क्या गया? What's remaining? But that thing we just said, we're going to make the most out of all of those things. Why Guru ne visar ke? We want sab sukh mangde hain, why Guru visar ke? That's what we're doing, है ना? So don't take those things for granted. They're not yours. Loving and hating things, how to do it? How do you if there's something you really enjoy, make it Bani, the thing that you don't like doing as Gursikhi things, do them with more attention. The things that you like doing, do them with less attention. So your life changes. Huh? Giving individuals praise is worse than slandering, so don't go too far. Huh? In that respect, have positive memories and experiences. Make sure for in life, which when you look back on your life, if you look back on your life now, are you happy with it? Are you happy with what you've achieved? If I ask you honestly, are you really, really happy? We should have positive memories. Make sure you put all the things in that's going to make it happy, but it's going to make it happy for the right reasons. Huh? And make your ardas meaningful and special. And the last thing I took off, didn't add because I added it on. If we use our chit now, even from now, if you remember those things, chit nu use karo. That chit is the thing that's going to, chit wrong paase lag gaya, then kahu ki sangat mil जीवन मुक्त होए काहू की संगत मिल चंपुर जात है. So you're going to meet someone's sangat, one sangat you're going to meet, they're going to take you straight to liberation. You're going to go straight to Guruji from here. Someone's sangat you're going to get, they're going to take you straight to the worst rebirth that you ever think of, imaginable. That's what Guru Sikhi tells us. So that's all I wanted to say. My time is good. Adi? Is that it? Question? Krishna? Does anyone got any questions? Otherwise,
I've got a question. When are you going to come back?
So as Gursikh Sangat here, it's very nice to see this Sangat Judio on Friday when you don't have to come. Friday night people go out for their little meals and they do all the things. Didn't Gurdwara you apne swas lekhe vich la laya, and that cheese where we talked about where Apran Adar, he's lent us these swas. All Guruji wants is say, if I've given you that much, if I've given you your swas, how much of that do you give me back? How much of it have you given me back? So please, Sikhi the messages, this is very, very high level. From a Sikhi point of view, it's very high level from what Guru tells us. And Gurbani is like a samundar, it's like a sea. And the deeper you go, Jinna tusi khojoge, unna tu labbi jana kuch. You're going to keep finding stuff. You can read, when you read through Bani, read through all the Bani and you read through it again, it tells you something different. Then you take that Bani, you read through it again, then it tells you something different. And you read through it again, it's like that. It isn't like you keep doing your part and it's some boring thing. It's not. The more you keep going into it, the deeper, the more diamonds keep coming out. It's got something, it's got Ratan, Jawahar, Manak, ek Gur ki Sikh suni. If you listen to Guruji's instruction and you keep finding more. Guru, what does that mean? What does that mean? You learn more and more and more. ठीक है जी, thank you. वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा.
Thank you very much, Pastor. वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा. वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह. I don't know if some of you guys know, but the Khalsa Club was actually started in Coventry, where Baisal's from. They've been doing it a lot longer than us, and they encouraged us to start it. So I'd like to thank them for that. I think we've all had a great 4.5 years since we've been growing together in Khalsa Club, learning and etc. Next week is Gyani Kulwinder Singh. He's going to be doing the lecture. He's only here for 2 weeks, by the way. On Sunday, if anybody wants to go, there's a minibus going from here to the Balsi, which is at Baisal Gurdwara in Coventry, for Dev Singh's Shahidi Manali. I'd like to thank you very much again for coming all over Coventry. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa.
Yes.
Did you see that? Do you like it? They get all